Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and on today's Roundtable, we're asking, how are you preparing for retirement? One popular money blogger claims there are 7 things you should consider, not 5, not 8, 7 things you should consider. Here to take a swing at them is money major leaguer Paula Pant. Also joining the conversation is a resident grumpire, OG. And finally, a guy who keeps us all laughing even when things run a little long. It's the one half of the Talking Real Money podcast, Don McDonald. But that's not all. Halfway through the show, I'll share my stubby trivia question. And now, a guy who hits it out of the park every episode, it's Joe Saul-Sehy.
Doug, at least a ground rule double. That's what we go for. We don't try to do that big swing. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friday. Happy Father's Day weekend. It's Friday before the big holiday. Would you call this, OG, a Hallmark holiday or a real holiday? Father's Day.
Which Friday is this for? I think you're a week early, buddy.
This is for next Friday. This is for next Friday, which is...
Then you're a week early.
Are you sure?
No.
He's dead on.
It's the 14th. So Father's Day is the 16th.
This is airing the 14th, and Father's Day is the 16th.
There's a wart.
See everybody hanging out with us live?
It's
We'll
never
fix
that.
It in post.
It's always like the 23rd or something.
Apparently
No, that's my birthday that weekend. That was what you were thinking of.
That's exactly it. Hold on. Let me just make sure.
No, you're right.
Yes.
What do I know?
It's Father's
say
Day.
that again.
It can't be a makeup. It can't be a made-up holiday. It's Father's Day, and I'm a father, so it's real.
Could you say that slower, OG? I'm just want to. All right, we can do that again. So it's
know what, Joe. As long as we're paused here and we're warding, when I clicked on the link that was in the meeting invite, it was not an article about 7 things.
Yeah, I read the article, the one from The Guardian, about how money pervades everything.
Me too.
Good deal. She sent you the wrong piece. That's great.
That's so do we want to switch? If we switch topics, I got to switch my open, or we got to find the right article.
Yeah, we'll just make it up. We can all.
Well, the good news is
with retirement topics.
The good news is, I know Don's comfortable with retirement topics. Paula is. OG is.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to read
it.
It's also Jonathan Clements.
I love Jonathan.
Yeah, so it's a straightforward thing. I'll just introduce the topics.
Cool.
Yeah. We might
I didn't like that article I read all that much anyway.
I know.
It was so British.
Just wilts thou.
I can't speak in pounds.
I know. They spelled everything wrong.
I know it was a 2 million pound problem.
Dividend Gypsy and E Boone, you're seeing this happen live. They're like, hey, nobody got the stuff. You could tell Karen is ready to go. She's like, today's my last day working here. Who cares?
Shots fired.
I'm not saying shots fired. I think it's funny. It is funny.
I think everything's funny, so whatever.
Here we go. Let's go back to. All right. Let's go back.
Day weekend.
Doug, they should both be in the link.
Yeah, I did. And I'm going to put it in the chat right now in Riverside.
I don't think anybody needs to see it, but yes.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Chat on Riverside. All right. 3, 2, 1. So OG is, I don't know, is this a Hallmark holiday or is it a Father's Day?
Well, I'm not celebrating that. It's my anniversary weekend this weekend, regardless of when Father's Day happens to be this year, despite the fact that it's always the next weekend. But
I think if you want to celebrate your relationship with your father, do that every weekend, I think. But yes.
Oh, I'm touched.
Also hear that voice is Don McDonald's here with us from Talking Real Money. How are you, my friend?
I couldn't be better now because I'm on Stacking Benjamins again, and it's been so long.
It has been a while, man. Yeah, but you guys are always getting it done over Talking Real Money. And for people that don't know what you guys do, talk about what you and Tom are up to.
Well, gosh, here's what we do. Almost every day we talk about real money.
Huh.
We do.
Cryptic.
Who knew?
Yeah. We just talk. We always find something to talk about, kind of like the 7 things that you should do to retire. We do that kind of stuff all the time. And we're there all the time. And then this summer, I'm going to be on the road doing it, traveling across America, talking real money on the road.
With real people.
With real people visiting us at campgrounds across America for a cookout. We're doing cookouts. We're doing a big cookout in Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh, I love Madison, Wisconsin. Yeah. Nice place. And how do people get the schedule for that, John? Is the schedule public yet?
It's at talkingrealmoney.com. Yeah. You'll see the big silver Airstream and just click on that Learn More button.
Awesome. That's great. I did a 40-city book tour, Don. I think that's a huge mistake. What you're embarking on, you could have talked to me first. Don't get me wrong, everybody that I met, it was super fun. It was just going from point A to point B.
I'm driving a trailer, though. So it's like I'm like a turtle.
It makes it
I'm
so much
carrying
better.
my house with me.
You just buried it even further, Don.
You've never seen Joe pack. He pretty much carries his whole house with him anyway.
I am right here. Speaking of right here, we also have Paula Pant from Afford Anything right here.
I am right here. Sorry, turtle in my throat.
Yes.
My fault.
So big weekend for you, big holiday weekend. Is this a big holiday?
No, honestly, I've been working every weekend. So
Father's Day.
Yeah, well, my dad is in Atlanta. I'm in New York. So, we talk on the phone, but I haven't actually, I don't think I've seen my dad on a Father's Day in probably a decade.
But you talk to him all the time.
Yeah, we talk on the phone all the time.
It's kind of like we were talking about. Every day's Father's Day, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and my parents are coming to FinCon this year. So
again, they're making a return trip.
They are, because they live in Atlanta. FinCon's going to be in Atlanta, and they are so excited. So excited. They said that the last time that they went to FinCon, which was in 2018, everyone kept coming up to them and saying, "Oh, you're Paula's parents. You're Paula's parents."
No, let's be real, Paula. The big thing was they got to meet me.
They did. When my dad met you, you introduced yourselves, and then Joe, you walked away, and my dad looks at me and goes, "Is that Mr. Benjamin?"
That's what they call him.
No, Mr. Benjamin.
Only half of Mr. Benjamin. Yes. Well, you know what? Not only is it Father's Day weekend, but it's this special for another reason. You know why, Paula?
Why is that?
It's because this episode's brought to you by State Farm. That's why. If you're a small business owner, it isn't just your business, it's your life. Whatever your business might be, you want someone who understands. That's where State Farm Small Business Insurance comes in. State Farm agents are small business owners too, and know what it takes to help you prioritize your policies for your small business needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Talk to your local agent today. And by the way, this episode not only brought to you by State Farm, we make sure that the second half of the show is always ad-free, and that's because we got some other cool sponsors. Here's two right now. 3, 2, 1. We got Don McDonald from Talking Real Money with us. Paula, neighbor Doug. So let's get moving. Today's piece comes to us from Jonathan Clements. And Don, you were talking about this earlier. You're a big fan of Jonathan.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, his first book, I wrote some of the liner notes for it, some of the review things. I reviewed the book, and I love Jonathan's work. Always have. For many, he used to be on my old show back when I was on Business Radio Network a lot, and he was a great guest. He writes great stuff. He has a nice, sensible approach to money.
Totally sensible. Absolutely. And what's great for people who don't know who Jonathan is, for a long time, he had the personal finance column at the Wall Street Journal. And now he has a wonderful site called Humble Dollar. And if you've never been to humbledollar.com, we'll have a link in the show notes. On this, he talks about 7 different dimensions to planning your retirement. And I want to walk through these because Jonathan introduces it this way. By the way, if you're listening to us and you haven't seen this piece, no need to have it in front of you. In fact, what's funny is we accidentally got our contributors for this live taping the wrong piece. So they haven't even seen the piece. And I told them they're all such pros. And this is so straightforward, being Jonathan. I think we're going to do a great job here.
I'm going to get a Father's Day surprise.
This is your Father's Day surprise. There's nothing We're going to send you the wrong stuff, Don. Happy Father's Day.
And a tie.
This will be just like college, like having to talk about something that you haven't read in class.
That's right, exactly. I get time to dance. Our retirement income, Jonathan writes, is built on a slew of financial products and strategies. But we should think less about the gory details of each and more about the role they play in our overall retirement finances. The fact is that each of us comes to retirement with different levels of wealth and different desires. We all want both a sense of financial security today and confidence about our financial future. So how can we best meet those twin goals? We might think about our retirement finances in terms of 7 dimensions. So I want to walk through these. The first one, he says, is setting a floor. First thing, setting a floor. Arguably, our fixed living costs should be the starting point for our retirement income plan, because if we're struggling to cover property taxes, insurance premiums, utilities, grocery bills, and other recurring costs, our final years will likely be awash with financial stress. So he goes right to, we'll start with you, Don. He goes right to this idea of financial stress. And the first math problem to figure out is this floor. So how much we need to keep the lights on. To me, that kind of sounds like retirement's like running a startup, right?
Yep.
I have this burn rate now down in retirement, and I got to make sure I cover the burn rate.
Absolutely. And this is the basis, I believe, for every good financial plan. I think before anybody thinks about investing for retirement or any of these other processes, you need to first establish what your need will be when you get there. Now, this is not an exact science. It's an art, but you take what you have today and you try to extrapolate that into the future, knowing that you're going to have higher medical costs, but maybe you won't have mortgage payments or something is going to shift. So you need to actually sit down with a piece of paper and your significant other and calculate what you're going to need, add some inflation in, because what that number shows you is what I like to call your risk need. If you don't know what you need, you don't know how much risk you need to take. And then you combine that with your risk tolerance, which I'm sure shows up somewhere.
Yeah.
And then you have a really good idea how you need to go about building that portfolio.
I like that you put risk need after risk tolerance, because what drives me crazy, Don, is everybody starts with how much risk I like to take. And it isn't about how much risk I like to take. It's how much risk do you need to take first. And then
why take more than you need?
Yeah. But also, can I stomach that risk? Yeah.
That's what I think is so important about taking a risk tolerance survey of some sort at every point along your retirement path.
Yeah, I definitely like it after I know the need, because I'm like, okay, can I handle this? Can I not? Paula, I'm coming to you next because you are famously Ms. Anti-budget, right? No budget for Paula. I save what I need to and I spend the rest. But it seems like if our goal is this burn rate thing, we kind of need a budget, at least for in this planning stage, so that we know what that floor is, true or false.
Well, so it depends on, all right, if you decide how much money you want to save, assuming that you have some type of a stable income, right? Assuming income predictability, then figuring out how much you want to save necessarily means that you also know how much you're going to spend and therefore how much you're going to burn. So it really, only becomes different if you have volatile income. And in the case where you have volatile income, then you pick your minimum savings amount, and then the spending portion of it is volatile based on your income. But so in that instance, that burn rate would be volatile.
I still need to know just that basic number you're saying. Once I know the number I'm free to spend, that's my number?
Well, so assuming a stable income, you know the amount that you want to save, and that is your non-negotiable, right?
Sure.
And so you prioritize those savings first and foremost. Whatever is left over is what you can spend.
But in retirement, I'm not saving. I mean, let's say I'm done saving, right? I've thrown that away. I'm done, baby. It's time for me to party.
Yeah.
At that point, then I just minus what I was saving, and there's your numbers, what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. Yeah. Plus in retirement, you're going to be taking out a fixed amount anyway. I mean, it might adjust annually, but typically for most retirees, you're on a very stable income. So.
Well, and how does this then, OG, inform your retirement savings bucket strategy. And, Don alluded to, risk tolerance, risk that we need to take, but how does this help you set up your investments in a way that makes sense?
Well, I think, we're going to talk about this in a little bit when he talks about inflation. So I don't want to steal too much thunder from that. But when it comes to kind of thinking about your cash flows, the biggest risk in retirement income is taking money out when things are going down and not giving yourself the time to recover. So as you're investing your portfolio, think about the person who retired January 1st of 2008, right? The market was pretty much at an all-time high. Life was okay. Things were going fine. Jumped in his Airstream, went on vacation for an entire year, and then comes back a year later and goes, "Hey, how's my money doing?" And not having a reserve or a buffer to account for the fluctuations of the market, which again he talks about in a little bit, could cause a lot of consternation because you're drawing down from a portfolio that that's already down. And so back to, from a cash flow standpoint or a budgeting standpoint, for all the people who don't do budgets, I'm a Paula anti-budget person too. A lot of stuff gets automated, right? You just go, oh, I have car insurance. I just sign up, they fill out the form and my life insurance is paid this way. My property taxes are paid out of my mortgage. Or if they're not there, then every so often I get a bill and I just send it. You don't really think about it. If you're getting close to your financial independence time, if you're getting close to retirement and you haven't sat down and gone, here's how much I actually spend every single month, it's a fun exercise to do. And it doesn't have to be, to the exact penny, but a lot of times stuff gets lost in there and you can't do it one time in a month and go, oh, like, here's my Amex statement. This is my spending, because there's a lot of stuff that's quarterly or semi-annually or even annually. A lot of times we look at our income and go, what the heck's going on? Well, we don't account for those, $10,000 property tax bills or the $5,000, insurance bill that comes up once a year, or you go on vacation once a year and it's, a decent amount of money. And so the only time you can kind of capture that is like what Paula said, start with the big number. Here's how much money I made last year. Take out all the savings, take out all the known things. I know how much my tax bill was last year. You can find that on your tax return. I know how much I saved in my 401k and my investment accounts. Like, that's very trackable and easy to figure out. I know how much my debt payments were. Hopefully those are going to go away as you get closer to retirement. And if they're not, you can account for that. But then what's left over, that's your number. That's how much you're spending. Now, he talks about in this how much is discretionary versus, fixed.
Yeah.
I'm of the belief that people don't retire unless they can maintain a similar lifestyle, or you just get too old. You're not going to early retire at 52 and go like, I can't wait to cut my lifestyle by half. Like, that's not how real world works. So,
I was having so much fun until I got to 52, darn it.
Right.
Yeah. And then I got to cut my lifestyle in half. It's like, no, I'll just work a little bit longer. So if you haven't done this, if you haven't sat down and gone through with a paper and pencil, and like written down your budget, and it's too hard to do, I honestly love the way that Paula talks about it. Take all the knowns out of it, because that's going to end up with what that number is. Then you can decide from there how much of that is fungible in terms of fixed versus discretionary.
Well, let's stick with Paula. We're going to have Paula Fest, I guess, here for the next couple minutes. Because the next thing Jonathan talks about is building in flexibility. And so, you're talking about that, Paula, about how 1 month, another month. And so once you've saved, I can be as flexible as I need to be in a given month, and other months I don't need to be that flexible. But when it comes to retirement, let's help our stackers out a little bit. What comes to mind when you think flexibility in retirement?
It depends on the age and the health of the person. Oftentimes people, if they're in their 60s or 70s, they're still young enough that they can often travel, they can engage in hobbies. So you might see a lot of those fun things, like the pent up demand of things that they couldn't do while they were working full time.
Big fun spending.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then as you get into your 80s and 90s, a lot of, typically, many retirees tend to not travel as much. Often there are some health concerns or mobility issues that come up in your 80s or 90s. And so you tend to see, generally speaking, more spending on health and health and domestic labor, like somebody to help you clean the gutter, somebody to, or even more daily, activities of daily living type of tasks, cooking meals, cleaning, not just a housekeeper coming in once a week, but maybe somebody coming in every other day to sort of tidy up, those types of things. So more of the budget can go towards that.
Don or OG, anything to add to that list, Apollos?
I want to add something about flexibility because I am a big fan of using flexibility as a withdrawal strategy. So that because we are, and most of us have proven over our lives that we're capable of living our financial lives flexibly. When we lose a job or we get a cut in pay or whatever it might be, we can reduce or expand our spending to fit the income. And that's why I think considering something like a flexible strategy is kind of a way to get that. When you say, I'm going to take 5% or whatever the number is out of my portfolio every year, and that's my budget for the year. So if the market or my portfolio had a great year, then I am going to be able to do anything I want, maybe even keep some of it, not have to use as much in the future. So you can kind of add that flexibility, I think, to your portfolio and your withdrawal strategy.
Don, I remember I had this conversation with our mutual friend, Paul Merriman. And he uses this for his travel. You talk about 5% of your portfolio for lifestyle.
For life and everything else.
Yeah, he said that he will travel the world when the market has an up year. And when it has a down year, they will do the, more of the staycation. He's in the Pacific Northwest, so he will just explore the Pacific, which is plenty of stuff to wherever you live. There's all kinds of stuff regionally. And he said, I like both of them, but I also kind of like the surprise, given what the market
of having a good year.
Yeah. Whether I'm going to Europe or whether I'm headed to Tacoma,
I'd just be driving in the Airstream anyway. So
exactly. And by the way, if the market doesn't continue picking up, it might be just a trip done around your neighborhood with Airstream. It sounds like.
Yeah, as long as I can stay in national parks on the senior rate of like $12 a night, I'm good.
It's living the dream.
I'm moving out of the house and just doing that.
OG, any other expenses you see with clients when it comes to these big flexible things come to mind?
I think there's a couple. We hit on it, just one of them, which is the healthcare costs. I think there's two layers to it. Healthcare costs before Medicare. So if you're an early retiree, a lot of times, and this has changed a little bit over the last couple of years because rising costs, but it used to be you didn't really capture the full cost of healthcare when you were working because it was largely borne by your employer. And now some of that's getting passed on because the costs are rising so much. So we're seeing a little bit more of it. But recognizing that there's a pretty big increase in the healthcare costs from retirement to Medicare, and then there's still some costs from Medicare and beyond to include large healthcare expenses infrequently, during that kind of 30-year period where you have
major medical kind of stuff,
major health issue. I don't know who coined this, but I loved it. So I steal it all the time, which is to say there's kind of three stages. There's the go-go years in retirement where you just kind of all that pent-up demand that we were talking about of like, I got to go get all these things done, the bucket list. Slow go years, which, hey, we're just going to take it a little bit easier. Maybe trips are more domestic, not as international, maybe once a year instead of 5 or something like that. And then like Paula was talking about when you kind of settle in to the no-go years. So go, slow go, and no go, which I thought was pretty witty to say. But each one of those, we have this. I think we have this myth that my spending will go down in retirement. I don't think that's true. I think it goes up and rises just like everything else. And to Don's point, it's gonna ebb and flow based on what's really going on in your life. If there's a big medical expense, well, guess what? You're probably gonna dial back from gift giving that year or the big trip, or if the market does really bad or really great, you're going to make some changes. That's kind of the normal pace of life that you've experienced from when you started working at 13 years old or what.
Do you like OG? Do you like, we talked about that money for your floor, right? And that's kind of your core portfolio, your core strategy. This flexibility Jonathan's talking about and that we're talking about, is that a separate bucket? Do you have a separate bucket of money, or is this added on and it is what it is? You count it as more of the same or different?
Well, I suppose it all depends on how your retirement income is structured. Some people, it's becoming fewer and fewer, but some people have pensions and, in addition to Social Security and some personal retirement savings and things like that. It's a lot easier to compartmentalize those different, income streams and the expenses that are tied to that when you can do that. I know a lot of people that think, okay, I know my RMD, my required minimum distribution every year is about X. That is my why. It's like, I get this check in July. I know that I always use it to pay my taxes and go see the grandkids. Like, that's that money. And so it's easy to kind of compartmentalize it when it's, in different buckets. If you only have Social Security or you only have personal savings, hard to do. It's kind of suit your demeanor, I suppose. There are some people who like to have 32 savings accounts. Like, I got one for the car, one for the car repairs, one for the tires, one for the tire repairs. I got all the different, wine abbing of every dollar type thing. I think it's fine just to have one bucket, but if you like to split it up, there's no reason not to, I guess. Complexity, maybe.
Let's say, Paula, that you're coming in hot to retirement. Somebody's hanging out with us and they're very close to the vest. They have enough money for the floor, but they really need growth to be sustained in their portfolio. This concept of flexibility also means skid marks on the growth. So do you have a strategy where you maybe go into debt or take out a line of credit in retirement in case some of these big things happen?
I would hope that if you are coming in hot, meaning that if you are just barely, you could retire, but only if the stars align and everything works out and you have a couple and you don't get hit with sequence of returns risk and have a couple of good years right up front. I would hope that if that is the case, that I'd hope you're in good enough health that if you needed to, your flexibility would be that you could take on some type of income producing activity. The challenge is that a lot of retirements are involuntary and there are some people who don't have the health to be able to do so. But assuming that your health is there, the real flexibility is willingness to earn an income, even if it's a part-time income or some type of remote work.
So it's your human capital.
Yeah, exactly. Your human capital is your most, the flexibility with the biggest payoff.
Interesting.
I mean, think about it. Hold on just a second. I would just add to that just a second. It's like, if you think about that extra income and a lot of times, especially when we're moving into retirement, it's like, well, I mean, seriously, if I go work part-time, what's an extra 10 grand? Like, who cares? It's just 10 grand. Is that really going to move the needle? That's not having to have $250,000 saved, or the mortgage payment paid off, and your mortgage payment's $2,000 a month. That's $500,000 you don't have to have saved to help with that payment. It's a pretty profound amount, how little bits of extra income, even if it's small amounts of, like, my father-in-law umpires softball and baseball during the spring. Like, he's in his 70s and he does that. And I think he makes a couple $1,000 doing it maybe, but that's a bunch of money that he doesn't have to have saved in his investment account to pay that $2,000 or $3,000 a lot, enough to put gas in the car for the year, so don't underestimate that.
My father-in-law found out if he was a bus driver for the local school district, he would get health benefits, and he had just a year and a half to go. And not only did he get paid, and not only did he get to yell at kids, but he also,
bonus.
it's just amazing. He also pinched himself every day, I'm sure, but he also, health insurance covered, got paid, and got to yell at kids. Don, I want to come to you for number 3 here before we go to the break, because this has Don McDonald written all over it. Number 3 is buying predictability. And Jonathan writes, where will we get our retirement spending money? It can either come from selling assets or home, stocks, bonds, cashing out part of a savings account, or via regular income. It sounds like Donnie's talking about your favorite product. Did you hear me baiting Don McDonald? talking annuity. He's talking annuity, Don.
Hey,
like red meat to Don McDonald.
It depends on the kind of annuity. If you were to say indexed annuities will just throw me into a tizzy. But an immediate
and I wanted
annuity.
To see it. I just wanted to see it, Don.
I hate indexed annuities like with a white hot passion. This kind
But
of
the
annuity,
commission
though,
is so great, Don.
Oh,
what's
I
not
know.
to like?
Tom and I sat down and did the numbers on our firm, and if we were just selling indexed annuities,
Yes,
we
we'd
would
all be
both
rich.
we'd both be worth like 8 figures, 9
we
figures.
wouldn't have to work again. Just one time. Just sell them all.
Just that one commission.
Client be damned, Don. Client be damned.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, that's the attitude of most of the industry, dude. It is. But okay, let's talk about immediate annuities for a minute, because in those, and I think they're rare cases where somebody must have absolute certain income for the rest of their life, they serve a useful purpose, as long as people understand what they're getting into. When you get an immediate income annuity, you are totally, absolutely, irrevocably giving up a huge chunk of change. And if you do the math, if you you do it when you're 65, it's not until you're early to mid 80s that they actually start paying you anything on your investment. They can pay you for that first 16, 17 years, depending on what the rates are, 15 years, totally out of your principal, and never touch a penny out of their pockets or out of their investments. So you've got to remember that they're not giving you anything. And these 7 or 6% returns they're quoting, those aren't returns on your money. That is partially return of your money. As long as you understand those things, I'm good with it.
You want to see the dogs again or the ponies, right? Smoke or the mirrors? Which one do you want?
I prefer the ponies because I got dogs. So show me the ponies.
Oh, gee, I think it's predictability, though, also says maybe doing some homework ahead of time for our stackers that aren't retired yet on your Social Security options and Medicare, I think is probably your A1 homework assignment.
I mean, there's some influence that you can do with that, right? Like if you are a business owner, you can somewhat control your income perhaps, and you can decide how you want that taxed, and that kind of downstream affects your Social Security. I don't think that there's a lot of people who are going around, asking their boss for a raise so that their Social Security benefits are a little bit higher in the future. Yeah, that's kind of item number 600 probably on the list. But recognizing that there are different time frames, and there's an endless debate of, do I take it at 62? Do I take it at 67? Do I take it at 70? Which one does my spouse or partner take, his or hers? And we've got all these different situations with previous marriages and stuff like that. There's a lot of options. I hate the fact that people come out here and just say, well, the only best way to do it is to wait until 70, or the only best way to do it is take it at 62. Look, at the end of the day, it's what's best for you. Like, you have your health needs, you have your life expectancy, and what's going on in your family and that sort of thing. And, that's going to drive a lot of your decision. You have your money, right? If you've got assets piled up elsewhere, well, then the risk of waiting on Social Security goes down a little bit. If you're, like Paula said, if you're kind of forced into retirement and you're like, crap, I needed a few extra years, maybe the fact that you have access to Social Security at 63 and a half will be the difference that makes it. So everybody's going to be unique about this, but I think knowing that you have different outcomes and working through what that looks like, I think is really, really important. And knowing how taxes work, golly, it just has such a big impact. And so many, we talked a couple of weeks ago about the taxation of your Medicare. If you have a good year of income in retirement,
right.
how that
Irma.
affects it.
Good old
Irma. And so many people are surprised by that. So there's a gimme the gotcha to everything.
Yeah,
or just buy a bunch of annuities like Don wants you to do. And
to Josh's point about these absolute answers, like, it is absolutely best to have an annuity. It is absolutely best to take Social Security at 70. The correct answer is, and this is one of the problems with our industry, the correct answer for everybody is, it depends.
Maybe.
Yeah. It always depends.
My favorite thing, Don, is when people say, should I do a Roth 401k or a traditional 401k? And I'll go,
it depends.
I
what
are tax rates in 40 years? I mean,
right.
if you can give me that bogey, I will 100% be able to.
If you know the future, we can tell you.
Exactly.
Paul, I've got kind of a philosophical two-parter for you. How important is protecting your predictability? Say that 3 times for your sanity. Like just the sanity of protecting that predictability of money coming in. Is it better to have something where it's an automatic check every month?
You remember earlier when you were talking about not taking on more risk than necessary? So
are you assuming that I can't think back 20 minutes? That I'm that old, Paula? I think my age has advanced that far.
He took his Prevagen today, Paula. Don't worry. We watched him.
So I was thinking during that conversation that what you were talking about was there's risk requirement, and then there's in addition to risk requirement, there's also risk tolerance, which is psychological, and risk capacity, which is logistical, right?
Right, yeah.
And so to your question about the predictability, right? Predictability, I think the importance of predictability in a person's own life is probably going to be a reflection of a combination of that tolerance, volatility tolerance, which is psychological, and volatility capacity, which is logistical.
I think some of this people achieve, right, by paying off mortgages. I mean, is paying off your mortgage a piece of this protecting your predictability?
Absolutely. I think lowering those fixed monthly bills, again, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning, lowering that floor, the smaller your required spend per month, the more flexibility that you have. And so if you are in an unpredictable situation, again, maybe because of your health, maybe because of your wants, but if you are in what is otherwise an unpredictable situation, some people will choose to counterbalance the unpredictability of other aspects of their life by lowering that floor. But again, a lot of it is so psychological, right? Some people thrive on the not knowing and the excitement that comes from that and the creativity that forces.
I love how know yourself enters into the financial plan as much as anything else. It's so great. We have coming up in the second half of this discussion, we're going to talk about fending off inflation, cushioning crashes, and protecting the long game, right? The long end to our game. But before we do that, at the halfway point of every Friday episode, we have this amazing trivia contest between our 3 frequent contributors, OG, Paula, and my mom, who contributes by letting us use her basement. And so, Don, mom is never coming down to the basement. She doesn't like the stairs. So you're playing on behalf of mom, which means good news and bad news, my friend. Which would you like? You want the good news or the bad news?
No, I love starting with the bad news because then I can feel better later.
Well, the bad news is you're in last place.
I know.
Mom's got 5.
I'm always there.
Somehow Paula has 6. I have no idea how. And then OG has 6. And because OG was ahead of Paula last year, OG will guess first. Paula will guess second. And Don, the good news, though, is because you have 5 and they have 6, not only with a win today can you enter mom into a tie, which she'll be forever grateful. Number 2, though, is you also get to guess last.
Cookies? Do I get cookies?
I'll leave that up to her.
Is she going to bake cookies if I get her to 6?
Well, last time it was brownies, and I'm not sure that really helped with the
yeah, that was, those brownies. Yeah.
It's a whole different deal there, dude.
Those brownies are the reason I assume you can't remember what we said 20 minutes ago.
That
Mom,
might be why Paula
baking up there.
that might be why Paula loses every week. But not this year. Something's going on. Doug, you've got the question so we can get a winner.
Thought you'd never get to me, Joe. Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. On this day in 1966, the Miami Marlins beat the St. Petersburg Cardinals in the longest uninterrupted professional baseball game in American history, lasting an incredible 29 innings. The game went on for a whopping 7 hours, ending around 2:30 in the morning with a final score of 4-3, or about 1 run per hour. I score more than that in the average hour, if you know what I mean. What I'm saying is, I'm really good at Fortnite. Many restless fans left mid-game to get drinks at a local bar and ended up picking up a shift at the bar. The people that left didn't miss a thing either. The 12th inning began an astounding 17-inning streak of neither team scoring. That's got to be where the word pointless comes from. Today's trivia question is, in the year of the longest uninterrupted game, 1966, what was the average price of a ticket to a Major League Baseball game? I'll be back right after I ask the kids across the street how much they typically score. Got to make sure they're not gaining on me.
That might not go well, but we will let you do that while we collect answers for you, Doug. We get to start with OG. 1966, the average price of a ticket to a Major League Baseball game.
Well, the only frame of reference that I have was a trip to Disney in 1983 for a family of 4, and it was a blistering $50. And my dad was not impressed. He thought that was ridiculous, and felt we should probably go home. So I'm gonna go backwards from there. Average baseball game. I mean, probably. Let's go $5.25 for an average
$5.25. Paula, that sound good to you?
Man, if I knew what a baseball ticket today cost, I could try to reverse engineer that with inflation, but obviously I have no idea what a baseball game today costs.
What do you mean, obviously? People don't know that. Maybe you go all the time.
I think this
Yankees,
entire audience
Mets.
knows that. I think anyone who has listened to any number of Stacking Benjamins episodes could probably guess that about me.
Maybe not up on the Yankees this year.
I know sports about as well as I know movies, which is to say not at all.
Thank goodness she knows money.
Yes, exactly. So one thing I got. Except in this case, because I don't know the amount, but I'm going to, I'm going to leave some space. I'm going to guess $1.75.
$1.75.
So Don, there is a wide
there's
field
a window
goal in between those
in the middle. Yeah, it's funny because I looking around. I think I'm probably the only one old enough to remember this time. As matter of fact, in 1968, I bought my grandmother, took her to a Denver Broncos Houston Oilers game, and I don't remember what the ticket was, but it would be obviously more expensive. I was going to go with, this was my original thought, so I'm going to stick with it. Average cost Major League Baseball game, $2.
$2. We got $5.25, and that's based on
what I remember I was making as a paper boy in 1968 to buy a ticket for my grandmother to go to a football game. The football game couldn't have been more than $10 based on the 50 cents an hour I was making or whatever it was.
We got $5.25 from OG, $1.75 from Paula, $2 from Don. Who's right? We'll let you know in just a minute. Let's stop for just a second. Say hi to everybody who's hanging out with us. How are you guys? Thanks for hanging out. Daz here from Northern Virginia. Glad you're here with us. Tyson is here from Alaska. Glad you're with us. Dividend Gypsy from Mexico. Carlos from North Carolina. E. Boone. Rocky, who says behind the scenes is awesome. Yeah, when you find out that you guys are rocking, seeing as the fact that I didn't give you the piece. Nice job.
The basement illusion is destroyed.
There it is. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. OG opened this shindig up at $5.25. Paula and Don both said, nay, you might be way too high. You think you're too high?
You know, I do. I don't really have a frame of reference from 1960. I should have asked you.
Right here. Yes. I was in 1966. I would say, Don, that I was born probably 10 months before you took your mom to that football game.
You were a little guy.
I was a little guy. I was a gleam in my parents' eye. In 1966. Paul, $1.75. Don liked it. And he's got he's got a real anchor, not the one OG tried to plant. So you got to be feeling pretty good.
I am. I'm feeling good. I have a wide range of answers that would all fall into, around what I guessed. So yeah, I'm feeling good about my guess. I think I could possibly pull into first here.
I got to say, Paula, I'm pulling for you because this miracle continues throughout the year. This would be amazing. This would be great. And Don, $2.
$2. $2 Chuck.
Feeling good?
Yeah, I am. I actually am because I've got that nice range above $2 up to $5.
Do.
Yeah,
you got some of the upside. Well, let's see. It's no longer going to be about feeling in a second. It's going to be about somebody's high-fiving themselves. Doug, who's winning this thing?
Hey there, stackers. I'm self-appointed neighborhood scorekeeper and the Rain Man of baseball, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. While the longest uninterrupted professional game of baseball went on for 29 innings, the longest professional game ever went on for a remarkable 33 innings, but was played over 3 days in April and June of 1981. Sounds like a date I had once. 1 minute you're feasting on endless shrimp at Red Lobster, and the next thing you know, you're waking up in the bed of your own El Camino in a Target parking lot covered in Cheddar Bay biscuit crumbs. It was frightening. Today's trivia question is, in the year of the longest uninterrupted game, 1966, what was the average price of a ticket to a Major League Baseball game? The answer, with entry to a professional baseball game hovering around $53 today, watching your favorite team play live can add up to a pretty pricey day. Hot tip, if you're looking for a day at the ballpark without breaking the bank, you can watch me play every Sunday here in Texarkana. I may not be the best player, but I look great in the uniform. Nope, nobody's agreeing with me. And you can see you can see me for about the same price as you'd have paid to go see a pro game in 66. You shut your mouth, Joe Saul-Sehy. But where does that leave our contestants? Well, here's what I can tell you. I can tell you that OG was off by $2.39. Paula was off by $1.11, and Mom Don, I like Mom Don. He was off by 86 cents because the correct answer is $2.86. Congratulations, Mom Don.
Don McDonald brings home the win.
I got something right.
We have a three-way tie now. Three-way tie. And we're almost halfway through the year.
Love you, Mom.
Fantastic. Maybe she will give you some of those brownies now, Don. Pleasure of being.
It's been a long time since I've had those brownies.
By the way, even though it sounds awesome, $2.86 in 1966, that's equivalent to about $27 today. So yeah, prices have gone up, but it's not like it was pocket change in 66. I mean, it was still $27 on average to get in. So it's still something.
That's still a lot of money for a paper boy, Don.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah,
I had to throw the Houston Chronicle for a full year to take her to that Houston Oilers game.
Did they win?
No, Broncos did not win. No, I was a Denver Broncos fan. So was she. We used to watch it together when I was a baby practically. And she wanted to see the Broncos. I took her and they lost.
Well, luckily you weren't a Detroit Lions fan like I was, because that's been a long, painful process until last year. But we're on our way, Don.
It's way better to be a Houston Oilers fan.
Yeah.
Right.
Who are they now? Oh, yeah, they're the Titans, right?
They're the Titans.
Yes. Yeah. All right, time for our second half of this discussion about the 7 dimensions we should think about when thinking about retirement. And this is brought to you by depositaccounts.com. You know what happens, Paula, when you go to depositaccounts.com?
You find out that the deposits that are currently in your portfolio are nowhere near the best in class.
Nowhere near, most probably. Nice job. Yeah, depositaccounts.com from LendingTree. You can compare more than 275,000 deposit rates from over 11,000 banks and credit unions. And guess what, Paula? You can pitch yourself because it's for free. Savings account rates, as we record this a little before, you can check out the current rate just by going to deposit accounts, because all I did was just went depositaccounts.com, and here it is. National average on a savings account right now, 0.52. That's bumped up a little bit from last week. Top 1%, though, down a little bit from last week, 4.97%, but huge difference if you're in the top 1% on savings accounts than the national average. How do you find out about that? CDs, checking, money markets? Just go to deposit accounts from LendingTree. Deposit accounts, compare, ditch, switch, and save. All right, let's jump back into this wonderful piece by Jonathan Clements, who's, I think, knocking it out of the park again, as are our contributors discussing it. But next on this list from Jonathan, Don, is, let me scroll down.
You mean you don't have a newspaper in front of you?
I don't.
Hard
What's
to
up with it?
believe.
What's up with that? Cushioning crashes. You know, when people get into retirement's a long time, Don, but I think everybody worries when they get there. They're like, what if I put my money in, it crashes right away? How do you think mentally through the fact that I might be living through a few crashes during my retirement years?
Well, that's the reason why we see so the popularity of these target date funds, these target retirement funds, because they build a portfolio that grows increasingly more conservative as we age. So you're going to generally want to have a less volatile portfolio. And that's really, as Paula mentioned earlier, volatility is what risk is all about if you build the right portfolio. You no longer have to worry about risk, the kind of risk where you like Crazy Kitty or Hello Kitty or Mad Kitty or Roaring Kitty.
Something kitty. All the kitty.
The kitties. You don't have to worry about losing everything if you build a really diverse portfolio. So as you get older, you will generally want to increase the portion of your portfolio in very stable bonds, not volatile bonds like junk bonds or high long maturity bonds. But again, it comes back to the risk profile of a person. If you are in retirement and you don't need to have a lot of risk to keep going through life, then you don't want to have a lot in the stock market. And if you have 20 or 30% of your portfolio in the stock market, historically, worst case scenario is not a crash. It's a stumble in the market. It's a 10, 15, maybe 20% decline, not a 50 or 55.
Oh, gee, I know you got a different way that you like to mitigate that risk. We call it.
I knew you were going to pick on me for this.
We call it an indexed annuity. Tell me about that. No, I'm kidding.
I gotta go.
No, that is
Get all the
that
upside,
is not
and
it.
none of the downside.
None of the down. And we
But
made up our own index.
Yeah.
Jonathan Clements says, if we get a year like 2022, you can have what Don's saying, stocks and bonds, and they both got pummeled.
Yeah. So I think that the biggest risk in retirement is running out of money. And I think the easiest way to run out of money is to have as much stuff guaranteed as possible. You look at the thing that got you here was owning companies and the compounding value of it over, your entire life of growing your portfolio. And right at the peak, when it's as big as it's going to get, I think it's foolish to then just say, nah, I don't need any more of that. And there's a balancing act there, because for a lot of people, like getting just their lips above the waterline in terms of retirement, it's kind of this real treacherous spot, because any amount of decline, whether it's 2022 or something really catastrophic like 2008 was, 2008 and 9, that can cause a really big swing in terms of your livelihood. Like I gave that example before, you go on vacation on January 1st of 2008, you come home on December 31st of 2008 and go, hey, how'd my money do? It's like, well, it's in half. You got half of it. But really, what we're trying to avoid, if you kind of peel away the layer of the onion here, I think is we're trying to avoid taking money out of the market when it goes down. And the way that you can avoid that is by having an adequate amount of reserves to withstand those declines. In my mind, you've put money in every single month for your entire life. You should just continue to take that money out in the same form that you put it in. So, you need 5,000 a month to live on, and you just sell 5,000 a month out of your portfolio with the stipulation that you have a big giant cash reserve. And when we're growing up, we talk about cash reserves of being 3 months or 6 months. We're like, wow, I've got a 6-month cash reserve. I'm talking 3 years of cash reserve. And I think Don and I are saying the same thing, just a different way. His way of having being more conservative is kind of changing the asset allocation. Mine is saying we'll just have a bunch of cash and then some and the rest be invested as per your normal asset allocation. And that's another way to kind of even out the volatility, because what you do then is you just live on the cash and allow the market to recover. We've seen every time, no matter what's happened in the history of mankind, the stock market has come back. It's just the time. The thing we need is time. And if you can give yourself enough runway to just go, all right, the market's down 20%. I can still live my life for 3 years, 4 years. If you want to be ultra conservative, 5 years, and say, I've got 5 years of runway where I can just let this portfolio just do what it does. Just look at every time period that the market's gone down. There's been a big recession or a big market decline, and then go, what did it do 5 years later? You're always okay. The problem is that if you don't take that extra cash, if you don't have that extra runway, then the market goes down by 20 or 30% or 40 or 50 or 57. And now you're taking money out because you still have to live on it, and now you had $1 million, now you have 600,000, and you're taking another 40,000 out now to live for this year.
And I think I misspoke a little bit when I said bond. I meant really fixed income, that a big chunk of your portfolio is fixed income bonds, which could be CDs, which can be all kinds of things. Yeah, basically the same thing. You need to have a place where you feel like I've got money if the stock market goes to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah. And the more conservative you want to be, up to a point, right? You could have all of your money there, but then I think you're giving up opportunity long term. But I think that the idea that we want to get more conservative as we get older, it really rubs me the wrong way, because we have such a great opportunity to continue to grow your portfolio to keep up with the rising costs and also benefit the people around you, with the little asterisk of, like, if you're just barely there, it's really treacherous, because one little, not even a big wave, just a little bit of extra water in the boat and you sink. And that's why I hate those, like, oh, as soon as I get 25x my savings, I'm good. It's like, or my income, whatever the fire, like, back of the envelope calculation. This all started at the very beginning, right? Where, like, retirement is personal. You have to figure it out for yourself based on your needs and goals and timeframes and so on and so forth, not just like a, back of the envelope calculation. Anyway,
Paula, Paula, the place I want to hear from you on this is, Afford Anything is always about thinking about your thinking, right? How do you think about your thinking? And certainly the thing that you and I and Don and OG see all the time is not the strategy blowing you up. You blow yourself up because of this worry, right? This worry around crashes. What do we do on the mental side to put the girders up, to put that wall up, so that, 2007, 2008, 2000, 1987, 1923, whatever, I mean, pick your downturn, 1970s, sucking sound. How do you protect mentally against you blowing up your own plan, even if your money's in the right place?
I think you alluded to the answer within the question, which is you be a student of history. Because as a good student of history, when the next thing comes, you recognize it as simply part of a long historical pattern of the stock market generally going up over time, but occasionally punctuated by these brief moments of suckiness. right? And so the next time a brief moment of suckiness happens, you see it because you've studied history, you see it for what it is in the big picture. I think also the other portion of that is sort of the premise of my answer is zooming out and taking a look at the big picture, because it's very easy to catastrophize when you are taking a short-term view. But the more you take that 30,000 foot view, the more that you think long term, the easier it is to again to have context around what you're seeing. And you can do that at any age. So even if you are, if you're 65, you can still take a 30-year view, because you hope that you're going to live until you're 95 at least, or 100. And so you're hoping to be able to blow out some birthday candles 30 years in the future.
I think the hardest thing to stop yourself from saying, and I heard this all the time back when I was a financial planner, is this time's different, Paula. This time's different. I mean, those were all those times. History's cute and all, but this time is different. But you don't understand. This is the real thing. It's going down, Paula.
Right. I heard that. I've heard that many times. I remember hearing that a lot at the start of the pandemic in particular. This time it's different. We've never had something like this before, despite the fact that there was a pandemic in 1917 as well. But
Black
this one
Plague,
is different.
everybody. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that one.
Yeah. Really.
Yeah, 1917. All right, but if you are tempted to believe that this time it's different, because this time we have the internet, this time we have AI, this time, then the other thing that can be helpful is looking at underlying fundamentals. Because even when there is a moment of volatility, in the US, we have some very, very strong underlying fundamentals, long-term underlying fundamentals. And that paints a very bullish case for the future of the stock market in the US.
I like that, because you know the fundamentals, and you know that this isn't voodoo. I mean, the big phrase that always made me roll my eyes, as you're talking about what makes you roll your eyes, was when people are like, well, I don't really play the stock market. I'm like, we're not going to a casino. It's not playing. We're not playing anything. Fending off inflation is his fifth dimension here when you think about retirement. Don, when we say the word inflation now, obviously people are thinking about inflation. If I would ask you this question 5 years ago, people are like, what inflation? Who cares? Now everybody's like, yeah, totally get it. But what do we need to know when we're putting our portfolio together about inflation?
Well, you can't just manage your portfolio thinking about inflation. And the other thing is we when we have it, we think about it, it becomes front of mind, and we start looking for strategies to compensate. And some of the strategies are just stupid, like gold, just stupid. A terrible, awful, horrid investment that has never done anything for anybody anytime.
Wait, Don. Well, hold on. Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, we got to find guests who are a little bit more on point.
I know.
No, but here's the thing. What we forget, when we have a portfolio that is balanced between stocks and fixed income, or stocks in our emergency pool, or however, whatever we call it, when you have a massively diversified portfolio of stocks, what are you investing in? The economy of the world. When prices rise, what do those companies that make up the economy of the world do with their prices? They raise them. Stocks have historically been a wonderful inflation hedge in and of themselves, given time. Day-to-day stocks are crazy making. Again, look at GameStop. But over a long period of time, you've already got an inflation hedge in your portfolio. All you need to do when you're making your plan is factor it into your income needs, possibly. But trying to invest for it, if you're investing properly, you probably already are.
I got to pause for a second because I think OG wants to come over and give you a hug, Don. I think he.
Oh, hi, OG.
I think there's an "I love you, man" coming from OG
all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a built-in self-correcting system, right? I mean, it's like everybody worries, and you said it perfectly, Don. It's like, oh my gosh, what happens if the prices go up? Well, you're the owner of that company. You want that to happen.
You make
Like,
more money, you
Well,
dummy.
what if Apple raises the price of their iPhone? Well, you own it. You're a part owner in that. You're going to profit from it, because guess what? All the smart people in the world, they all work at these companies, and their pay is tied to the performance of the companies. They want to make money too. So guess what they do? They go, it costs us more to make this. You know what we should do? Charge a little bit more. Why is that? Oh, so we have the same profit, so I can make my bonus this year. All right, cool. You good with that? I'm good with that. We got to split it with all the other owners. Yeah, that's cool. I don't think they'll mind. It's like self-fulfilling prophecy. It works out.
It works out.
I mean, not that you
That's
want
the
it
problem
to be.
with this whole thing that we talk about, OG, is that my favorite thing is if you're investing right, everything you do is sort of duh.
Yeah.
Investing is a duh thing.
Oh my God, Paula, the bromance going on right now. I got to come to you so I get them to stop hugging each other. Number 6.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love love.
It is totally beautiful.
I love love. That's
Number
great.
6 on Jonathan's list, protecting the long end. And that is, what if we outlive our savings? This is a big fear, especially those people coming in hot. But I don't think there's a person alive who doesn't think about this possibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've mentioned this before, but financial planning is the only arena in which fear of having a long life is a thing.
It's bad,
right?
What if I live
There's
forever?
There's even a jargon term for it. It's called longevity risk, which is just the fear that you're going to live until a long and healthy and happy life, right?
That would suck.
Yeah. But if you naturally, well, okay, again, medical bills are an exception, but generally speaking, when it comes to other discretionary expenses, naturally, as you see your portfolio start to dwindle, as you see your assets start to dwindle, your lifestyle begins to adjust. And so you might, maybe at the age of 70, you're not willing to downsize to a smaller home, but maybe at the age of 85, you change your mind and you realize that this home is a little bit too big, or, even though you love the home, it just doesn't really make sense for you anymore. Right? So there are other elements of your life that you adjust as the size of your portfolio changes. And so, I mean, a lot of people have a fear of outliving their money, but how many people actually do? What we see from the data is that more times than not, people have the opposite. People end up having money. People don't die with zero. They die with some number that is greater than zero, which they then pass on to heirs and beneficiaries.
Yeah, let's just
get right. Or we have kids, or we just have, and then they take care of us.
I've asked my daughter if she's going to take care of me. She just looks at me and she goes, no.
I took care of you, child.
I know. Like, when do I get to have my diaper changed?
Gotta play that card harder, OG.
Yeah.
Don, let's just get right at it. Part of what Paul is saying, and she said a lot more than this, but just very succinct. Does this ever actually happen? Does this ever actually happen?
Yeah, of course it
dies
happens.
with zero.
Yeah, but sure. When they die with debt, it happens. However, this is why I am such a proponent of, I'm going to give credit. Paul Merriman was the guy with whom I originally worked these numbers. We looked back at a flexible withdrawal strategy. Monte Carlo, going back decades, back to the 70s. And almost any portfolio works except for 100% fixed income. Almost any portfolio works. If you set up a 5% flexible withdrawal strategy, as Paula said, we adjust our lives to what our income is. If you were to do that over any period of time in the past, what that would have done, you couldn't have run out of money, because you always had, if you waited long enough, the market coming back and refilling your portfolio to some extent. So it's close to impossible to run out of money unless the stock market falls continuously over your life, in which case the world is ending and you're in bigger trouble than dying without money.
Much bigger problems. That's the one strategy where gold might help you for a little while, Don.
No. Costco, the big year worth of food, 2 or 3 years of that, and guns. Because I'm coming after your food if you don't have a gun, and I do.
So go take over a Costco.
Food and guns. That's what you
grab
want.
the guns.
That's my incredibly scary right-wing strategy on that one.
Paula, you already referenced number 7, which is when all else fails, we might have to spend our home equity, might have to use a reverse mortgage. You kind of talked about that. You just start jettisoning other stuff. Wonderful piece. I'll link to it in our show notes page at stackingbenjamins.com. Thank you, Paula, Don, and OG for just a wonderful conversation on this. Let's find out what each of you are doing this fine, Hallmark holiday weekend. OG, your kid's not doing anything, right? She's not going to take care of it a year later. She's not going to celebrate Father's Day with you.
So it's not a Hallmark holiday. It's
a real
our
holiday.
Anniversary, I told you.
Oh, it is your anniversary.
Mhm.
Yes.
22 plus another 5. So 22 years of wedded bliss, 27 years of hanging out together full
I was
time.
going to say 27 years total.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking was coming. I'm going, it was
Yeah,
27 years, but 22 were blissful,
22 were great.
which is good. That's a good average.
27. Yeah, exactly. It's a every other year thing now. It's, but no, we're traveling this weekend. We got, we're in high school graduation season. So we're right at the age where all the nieces and nephews are graduating from the things. So we're back and forth to Michigan. So this weekend we're going to Michigan to see my niece and her graduation party, and then
Awesome.
back to Texas and back up to Michigan again next weekend.
We did a couple of those this year as well. Went to first wedding I've gone to in a long time as well. It's a lot of happy stuff. Paula, we'll get to our guest of honor last. Paula Pant, what's happening at the Afford Anything podcast?
So on the Afford Anything podcast, we've got a summer calendar full of great interviews. Michael Kitces, who was on the show originally
Never
back.
heard of him.
I know, right?
Great
It's not just everywhere. No.
He was originally on the show in 2017 or 2018. We have a 2-hour interview with him. It's not going to air until the end. It's going to be a while, so it's not going to air until the end of summer. But that is going to be one of our most epic. It's going to be the
Because he's
epic
still
end
talking.
of summer episode.
That's right. Paula says 5 words during that interview.
She just hit record and said, Michael, why don't you tell us about something that you're interested in?
I'll be back in 45
And
minutes.
I'll be back on Tuesday.
Don't get me wrong. It's all great stuff, but that
It's
dude can bring it. He can bring it.
He has some energy around his
Yeah.
topics.
Well, and he's so well versed in the world of financial advising and financial planning. So lots of wisdom, lots of knowledge.
Epic Michael Kitces on the Afford Anything.
Yeah. But that's not going to happen until the end of summer. I'm just putting it out here because it's a big one.
Putting the carrot out.
Yeah, dangling the carrot. I'm also coming up. This is also end of summer. The CEO of Yum Brands, which is the parent company of KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, and Habit Burger Grill. So
You talking about the
former
importance-
CEO, co-founder and former CEO of Yum Brands.
You talking about the importance of fourth meal?
Yeah. So he's a guy who he created Crystal Pepsi back when he was at PepsiCo. So I opened the interview by asking him all about Crystal Pepsi. And I closed the interview by telling him about how much I love the Mexican pizza at Taco Bell. So yeah. I asked him why Taco Bell didn't perform as well as McDonald's did.
Wow. You ask
yeah.
him how many of those names on the Taco Bell menu are made up? Like, was there a gordita before Taco Bell? I don't know. I'm seriously asking.
I don't know. I did not. I
Well,
just
it's a
closed
Spanish
the interview.
word.
I did not ask him that question.
Long before
But-
it became a taco.
That's the female of Gordo.
Gordo and Gordita.
Gordita.
Yes.
Yes. See. Yes, to begin.
And that is a summer of fun
Yes.
on the Afford Anything podcast.
Yes. Those are both going to be end of summer releases.
Fantastic. Mr. McDonald, thank you so much for coming back. This is so fun as usual.
My pleasure. Hey, we don't plan ahead like Paula. with our shows.
It's like, we don't know.
We don't know
We're
what
just, we're just taking the
I can tell
Airstream
you,
around.
I'm going to take the Airstream around in July, going from Florida to Seattle. Going to have a little, I'm going to meet with people along the way. Just one-on-one, not anything fancy. Come to the campsite. We'll say hi. But I just thought of something when these guys were talking. Tom, my co-host, is deserting me in my hour of greatest need, going on a safari in Africa, and he'll be gone 3 of our live Saturday shows that we do. So I have to do them by myself. So I thought to myself, this is a great opportunity to get people to call the radio show on Saturdays, the 22nd, the 29th, the last 2 weeks of June and the first week of July weekend. Every Saturday we do a live show on the radio in Seattle, and you can call it at 855-935-TALK, 855-935-8255. So any Saturday, 3 to 5 Eastern, call me.
Fantastic, because Don's lonely without you.
Exactly. Tom's gonna be out there visiting lions, and I'm gonna be fighting the financial battles here at home.
It's fabulous. And talking real money wherever finer podcasts are.
Same place
found.
your podcast is. All
and
of the same
Afford
places.
Anything show. Yes.
And the Afford Anything, which, my gosh, I was looking at the rankings. Paula, you are killing it.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
You are killing it. Stacking Benjamins has slipped. You, though.
Ouch.
Wow.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so
Don,
much.
I'm so glad you had a really good last appearance here. Super.
Well, if Afford
lasted.
Anything's killing it, it's because every other episode we have this guy by the name of Joe Saul-Sehy who joins us to answer audience Q&A.
Good.
By the way, Joe, you're still higher than we are.
We going back to that brownies reference? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. You're always higher than I am.
All right. Thanks to everybody on YouTube for joining us. If you want to hang out with us live, just you'll find it the time we're going live in the Facebook group or on our Facebook page, Stacking Benjamins or the Stacking Benjamins Basement. So thanks to all of you hanging out with us. Everybody listening, thank you so much. If you know somebody who's not thinking about retirement enough, it's great to forward this episode to them. But you know what the best part of this episode is when we do this, we ask Doug to summarize this. What do you think our biggest to-dos are now, Doug?
Well, Joe, I've got 3 of them. First, take some advice from this flash-in-the-pan guy, Don McDonald. Before you think about an investment strategy for retirement, make sure you determine your bare minimum risk need. Second, remember what Paula said, unless you have your own neighbor, Doug, that you can extort into taking care of your home for you, you may have some domestic assistant expenses that you don't have when you're younger. But what's the biggest to do? I got to make it crystal clear to the guys in the league that I have no interest in going pro. I can't be playing ball at 2 a.m. on a Saturday night. That's the only time I can squeeze in my weekly mani-pedi and full body wax session.
Oh, God.
Thanks to Don McDonald for joining us today. You can find more from Don and his podcast at Talking Real Money, wherever you're listening right now. We'll also include links in our show notes. You know where. Thanks to Paula Pant for hanging out with us today. You'll find her fabulous podcast, Afford Anything, wherever you listen to finer podcasts. And thanks also to OG. Looking for good financial planning help? Head to stackingbenjamins.com/OG for his calendar.
And we are done. Nice job. Hey, Tyson. Tyson in Alaska says, invest in chickens. When the stock market crashes, you can still eat. Do that instead of the gold. They're
invest in eggs, just fertilized eggs. They take up less space.
Which do you do first?
Yeah.
You're right. Darn it. Which one do we do first?
Yes. E. Boone says, another fantastic Tuesday. Thank you. Glad you guys are with us. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys next time. Contributors, hang out with me for just another second. All right. And we did it. That was so fun.
That was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
except for